Let's see. And we started. Well, it says 4 seconds we started. But anyway, here we are again. It's the IWF podcast with me, Ryan Iconic Shadows, and...
Yo, what's up? I'm LazyIRL. I play Drake in IWF, television champion. What up? I'm also a new game dev, the co-founder of Agoge Studios.
So, when it comes to being a game dev, how did you come about it, and what inspired you to want to become a game dev?
Oh, diving right into the big question. Okay. So becoming a game dev was kind of like a natural progression of things that I love doing. I love storytelling. Obviously, you've seen me in wrestling. I like making stories. I like creating sagas, things that go on and keep people interested and create a world that they have never entered before. I mean, that's what we do with Caw and everything like that. And then my friend, who went to school for game dev stuff, hasn't ever been able to do anything with it, kind of was like, hey, we should make a game. And I'm like, okay, I'll write the story, you do the game dev. So then 2 years later, after nothing happened, I finally said, you know what? I'm going to try it myself. I opened Unreal Engine 5 with zero knowledge, and then about a year later, I have a game coming up on Steam.
Yeah, I remember when you first messaged me, I was like, well, that's an interesting surprise that came out of nowhere.
Yeah, no, it's not something I've talked about much. I talked about it with Blaze and Essie because when we went on hiatus, I dove into it a lot more. But besides that, I really haven't told much of anyone. I wanted to make sure that it was a project that I completed first before putting anything out there. I didn't want to say anything until I actually had a store page up, because there are so many things that I've tried in the past but never got past the development stages. This is the first time I'm actually developing something and putting it out there for people to see.
Yeah. I did notice firsthand how polished it was, to say it's not like your second game, your third game, or anything like that. It just felt like natural, if that makes any sense. Like, it felt like easy to look at. Felt nice to look at. Like, it's a game that already has existed for at least 6 months, let's say. Like, it feels like a game that you can just look at and enjoy and play. I mean, they're two good qualities to have straight away.
Yes. Well, I thank you. That's a great compliment. Unreal Engine 5 does a great job of helping new developers along, because their process is a lot easier than, say, working in Unity or other game development softwares. At least for me. I mean, some other people find other platforms easier. Unreal Engine 5 just has everything accessible and right there for me. Also, 50 million tutorials later on YouTube, you kind of just piece everything together. And I didn't want to release anything that I didn't like. I didn't like the quality of. So I had a game technically a year ago, but it wasn't at the same level of polish. There were so many bugs. There were so many issues. You ran into things like you would shoot the gun and the gun would shoot left and not forward. You're like, okay, well, I got to go in and fix that.
Yeah.
I had a huge team of people who were able to test the game for me. And through those tests, I was able to go back in, fix everything that needed to be fixed, and then finally put it in for Steam's approval, which obviously got approved.
I mean, yeah, that's what you want. You want it to be approved. You want it to be... I don't know if it's just me, but sometimes I think of a certain way. I mean, you can't always think this way because it might be a game you would necessarily always play when you're making it, but would I enjoy it if I wasn't the person making it? Like that's one of the ways that I've been thinking of it when That's why sometimes I take long breaks when making YouTube videos,
Mhm.
because I'm like, if this doesn't feel enjoyable to watch, like how is enjoyable is it for me to make? Like it's that balance where you want it to be not forced, I suppose is the word.
Yeah, you got to make sure that what you're developing is something that you enjoy, because otherwise you're going to be uninspired. The product that comes out is not going to be great, and you end up with a game or a podcast or a wrestling show that just you're not comfortable in. That was how I felt at certain points of this game, and when I did feel that way, I went and changed what I was doing. There was certain times where I was going through a game and I was like, I'm not a fan. So if started off as just a walking simulator, you're walking from point A to point B. It's a horror story. Ooh, like a lot of other indie horror games that come out. There's not really much interaction or gameplay to it, but rather just going through the motions. And I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to put guns in this game. So added a whole new portion to the game, which eventually got me like, okay, I can get behind this. I can enjoy this more than just walking through just a walking simulator game. And I think every time that I came up to a roadblock where I was like, I'm not happy with this, I need this to be a little bit more, I would create something that would help inspire at least me. And I hope when people play it, they notice that there are certain aspects that, while it's not a normal FPS shooter or a normal walking simulator, it has enough content, enough story, enough gameplay that it feels inspired. Because honestly, at what I've created at this point, I absolutely love. I want to create more of it in the future, but we got to get past the first game first.
Yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily the same game type, but it gives me the sort of vibes of when Telltale makes some of their first games, and you can definitely tell the difference between, say, like the Back to the Future game and then I don't know, the Guardians of the Galaxy game. There are definitely like different feels to the approach. Looking back on it, not that Back to the Future game's easy to play now, because I think it's just how old it is. But like, it's night and day how games and game devs, from a player standpoint at least, because I've not made a game myself, on how they can go about it and how they change how they go about things as time progresses.
Having an inspiration in general when it comes to creating a game is a huge factor. How long have games been coming out for? It's been such a long time. There's such a broad spectrum of games that if you don't find inspiration from something, most likely you'll never be able to create a game, because you need a foundation. When I created my game, the games that came to mind were things like if you've ever played, what's it called? Fears to Fathom. If you've ever seen those, the 5 chapters that each one tells a story from a Reddit post, and a mix of that and Resident Evil. For example, when you're in the hunting portion of the game, when you lift your gun, back in the old Resident Evil, you can't move forward or backwards. You're stuck aiming that gun. So you have to make calculated choices in the game. But I also wanted to have enough lore. So the other side of the story is when you're playing as the character Adam, you're learning about the expanding world around you, what's going on. And the mix of the two characters and the way they play, I think, has created a good dynamic between that whole Fears to Fathom horror vibe and that Resident Evil survival like story.
Yeah. It's weird that it's the type of game that you can enjoy to watch and play from just a little trailer scene. Because I know a lot of people, myself included, maybe just solely console games, because I know there's some like really, really good games and sleeper hit games that only release on Steam first. So like you get like people that are sometimes either hesitant to play games or can't afford or what have you. So then they go to certain like YouTubers or like anywhere where they can find that sort of content. Or I'll be honest, like I probably just say it anyway. Sometimes they're just too scared to play that sort of game. Or...
Yep, I trust me, I get it. So we had testers who played the game, and two specifically literally couldn't get past the hunt mission because they were too scared. One of the mechanics for one of the characters is that it will only come after you when you're not looking, a la the Weeping Angels from Doctor Who type vibe.
That's gonna scare a lot of people.
Yeah, exactly. My friends would not turn around. They would always keep looking forward, and without turning around, it wouldn't come at them. So they're just standing there like, I'm too petrified to move. What am I supposed to do? So I get it. There's some people aren't like horror game vibes. They don't really mesh with that. But that's why we have YouTubers who play these types of games. Like, I love watching people like Jacksepticeye, Markiplier. I mean, I'm showing my age here because those are a lot of older YouTubers and stuff like that. IGP, Indie Game Player. There's a lot of people out there who you can watch, and I'm going to be sending out keys to those people. Whether they actually play the game or not is entirely on them, but I would love to see the game get a broad audience, even without sales, but people getting their eyes on it in general. That's why I've been doing a heavy push for people to wishlist, because the more wishlists you get, the more likely it is to appear on the front page and stuff like that. There's a lot of back-end logistics regarding the actual sale of the game versus the actual creation of the game. I love the creation. The sale part, I no.
And it's not a first thing I would think of myself, but would you potentially look into putting like a small version of the trailer into like a YouTube short, like potentially?
I already have one made.
Yeah,
and it will be coming out soon. Yeah, no,
sorry to cut you off there, but I was just about to say, the amount of people that will just be like,
yep.
And it only takes a split second, and you'll catch those people that love that type of content.
Yeah, that's exactly what I have one. I have one in the gun, ready to shoot. It's just I've been trying to stagger all my releases and everything like that. As I sent to you, you have the first trailer already. You also have the second trailer that hasn't come out yet, but I'm trying to stagger everything up till release. The short I was planning on releasing later today, and then taking the other one that I sent you, the other trailer that I sent you, that comes out on Sunday, and then the short for that one comes out on Wednesday. I know how the YouTube algorithm works with shorts. It's like you're going to get much more views on that one short than you ever will on a YouTube video, unless you're like a real big YouTuber got already. Yeah.
Because I was tempted at one point to make it IWF shorts and just move my like food content and stuff on there. Maybe some point down the line I might do, because then it separates it all. But I think I was just like, it's nice to have it all together for now, but then maybe down the line I might move it, because I totally agree with you. The short form content definitely has different amount of views to your longer form content, and it's really strange how that works out.
It's kind of because it's in high competition with things like TikTok, Instagram, a lot of other Reels types of videos. It's all one big competition, and they like to bolster their numbers by pushing shorts out more often than not. It's short content. you could watch 60 full-length shorts in the same time it would take to watch a 1-hour episode of anything. It's
Oh yeah, it's like our first podcast episode. Think of how many shorts you could watch in the amount of time that took.
exactly that's huge. And you got a lot of people who have a shorter attention span, people who don't want to like sit and watch a full thing. They want the summary, they want the quick, this is what happened, this is what you do, this is blah 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 blah, go on, so on and so forth. Not a lot of people want to sit through a 1 hour anything anymore.
No, I was gonna say, I totally agree with you. Like, it's strange how things have changed, because you get YouTubers, to use another example, where their content will vary from time to time. Like, sometimes they'll be like, oh, here's 3 games in one video, or here's an episode in one video, or sometimes here's the full game in one video. Like, the content, their structure has changed so much.
Yeah, well, it's also another thing. For SCW, when we were making the videos and everything like that, one of the huge things is I would go in after, and if he hears this, Jacob Havoc, I love you. You made my life so much easier. I would cut the videos down to where the portions of the matches are, because I know that not everybody wants to watch the full length of the show. They're typically just coming in to watch their tiny bit of it. But by doing that, more people are willing to go in and watch the video because they know where they can see what they want. Instead of it being like this 1.5 hour monster, here's your little 10-minute snippet of where you actually care.
Like, and think, like, if you made a compilation of those snippets of, say, I don't know, like all of Draco's matches, that you could have like a playlist just of that. It would take some effort, but it's doable. That could be like a channel in itself if you really wanted. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, before SCW went on its potentially permanent hiatus, it's a lot of stuff going on back behind the scenes. There were some ideas planning on doing like a special grouping of matches of certain SCW superstars throughout the years. Like the first one was going to be Ricky and all of Ricky Brown's biggest matches. An hour-long compilation of all those really, really big and important matches, and do it like once a month, and make it like week 1 it's this match, week 2 it's this match, week 3 it's this match. It's a short, like 10 to 20 minute video that focuses on one match, but since it's shorter than the typical long form content, more people are willing to go in and digest and watch. So yeah. it was a concept that came up. Obviously, plans have changed.
I mean, it is what it is. It could still come back. It could not. You know, it's at the end of the day, I see all this as just it's almost like a life sort of diary, if you will. Like, if you're not wanting to write it down, why would you want to do it in general? Like, yeah, I sort of see it all as if it's not enjoyable to write down, if it's not enjoyable to picture in your mind, why would you want to do it at all?
Yeah, I think a lot of, and I know you're experiencing this too, it's very hard to keep up with the current content for IWF, SCW, and keep it on a consistent schedule, because there's so much else going on in life that it's like, okay, I'm finally free, but Blaze and Essie are busy, or Blaze is busy, or you and Kane run IWF. Sometimes Kane has stuff going on, you have stuff going on, and you just can't get the time to actually make anything, can't build anything. It's hard even to find an hour to do anything nowadays.
Yeah, it's like that's why I started doing other little things on the channel, rather than always having people have to wait for the streams, because it's almost like it's going to potentially, more than likely, it kind of already has, it's going to change into rather than just wrestling, because having it just one thing, like you said, makes it difficult to do that thing all the time.
Mm-hmm. And it's the IWF, SCW, bunch of other wrestling companies out there. It's hard content. I don't think people realize how much effort goes into, say, an hour and a half show. It's not just planning matches. It's planning matches that all make sense. It's planning stories that are going into it. It's planning what comes up after it, what came before it. And at a certain point, when you get so deep into it, it starts to feel like a job. It starts to feel like actual work. And a lot of people who are doing this aren't doing it to feel like they have a second job. They're doing it because they love it and they have fun with it. But sometimes the love and the fun don't work out.
No, definitely not. And if you can't find that balance, or if you can't find one to outright the other, it can just stagnate, and it's going to be like, well, what's the point of continuing, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. And I said the same thing to Blaze and SC regarding everything. If your life is consumed with other things, even if you're passionate about what you're doing, the stress that is brought on by those passionate things can sometimes just ruin you. I love SCW. I love IWF. I love all the wrestling stuff that I've ever done. The problem is, I'm not making money off of it. I'm not getting anything out of it except for my own enjoyment. And it's impossible to keep something like that going if you don't have, one, free time, and two, that passion starts to fade. You try to reinvent it, but you realize even if you reinvent it, it's not what you love, it's not what you want to do, and it's better to wait until you can do what you want to do again than to just force it.
Yeah, like, this isn't me projecting or anything with what I'm about to say, because you may think I'm being cheeky with what I'm about to say, and this is not the intention. But one of the things I've always wanted to do, which you might have seen on my bio on Twitter or something like that, I've always wanted to do voice acting, but I always put it off. So at one point, it's actually on my main channel, I made like a sort of a jokey attempt at voice acting. So I thought, if I keep up with the commentary, if I do some voices here and there, I thought I need to have fun with it before maybe taking it seriously, because otherwise it's going to be one of those things where if I don't enjoy the mindset of it and the creative process of it, if somebody goes, oh, I want you to do this kind of voice, or oh, you're British, can you do this kind of villainous voice? It's going to be like, you don't want to feel like you're being not alienated, but you want to be able to put yourself in that mindset of, it's not just a hobby, it's also a job.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that at first was my sort of problem, where I'm like, how to start that process is probably more difficult than keeping that process going, in that sort of thing with what I keep wanting to do.
Yeah. You don't want to be pigeonholed to like one thing. It's actually kind of funny talking about voice acting and stuff like that. Part of the game is there's a lot of dialogue that's outside of the main characters. The main characters don't speak much. It's more of dialogue from other characters coming at them. I had to do 3 different voices for 3 different characters because I don't have any other voice actors outside of my realm. So having to like learn how to do different voice inflection. I mean, I've done it in call before, but it's a little bit different when putting it into a game. You have to have like, you need to make it feel like you are a different person. Otherwise, people are going to be like, why is this person talking this way and this person talking this way when they're the same person? They're not the same person. You're just confusing them because it's from the same voice. Someone who's always done a great job at that, Jensen, played all those multiple characters, and his voice inflections and changes for each one of those characters was phenomenal. No shit, the guy wants to become an actor. I mean, makes sense. But,
yeah, it's like, whenever I've mentioned it to him, it's like, oh, you might want to do this, you might want to try that. I was like, I feel like you don't necessarily have to do everything one way, but because I know he wants to do acting anyway, I think that's like a straightforward path that he knows that would probably work regardless. So
yeah.
You don't want to not do something that's not broken. You want to, you know. So I completely see what he means, but in a way, I'd like to try it maybe a non-conventional way before going, oh, I have to pay for acting costs and I have to do this and I have to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, going the conventional route I think we all find our own path our own way. For example, I didn't go to game deving school. I graduated with a criminal justice and psychology degree. Completely left field from game development. Well, though I did get to implement some of the psychology factor into the game development, but it's besides the point. People have their own trajectories. There can be better ways to go about it, but everyone forges their own path, and there is no one way to do anything.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of people are too maybe scared's not the word, but too worried about pursuing what they really want to do, so they just stick to what the easiest thing to do is, which is usually just whatever they're doing at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, say for example, my position where I'm working nights, I'm always wanting to see what else is available, but at the same time, it's like, but this is what's already earning me.
Yeah, it's hard to move forward, especially when you have something that's solid in front of you. I've never really been one to nail myself down for something. If I don't like something and I want to do something else, I'm typically the person who will walk away and be like,
Yeah.
I'm going to do my own thing. I'm not happy doing this. I'm going to keep moving forward. But I know I understand the sense of comfort in doing something that's already there, that you have, that unless you chose to walk away from it, you could stay there forever. Whether you should is a whole another argument out there, but it's like I mean, it's like me going from doing HVAC to doing game dev stuff. I've had so many different types of jobs where I'm just like, I'm done with this. I'm going to go find something else. Because my mentality, at least, is even if I have something secure, if I'm not happy, I'm not going to continue pursuing it. Because above all else, happiness is my key in life.
Oh, definitely. It's like, before I'm at the job right now, there was a job I was doing where I was breaking down like plastics to be recycled and stuff. I was factoring in, I was working like 10 till 7 or something, 10 till 6, like PM till AM. Then I had to get like 2 or 3 buses just to get home. So then that bus was costing me extra because it wasn't in the same sort of area to where I live. So then all these factors were like, I can't keep doing this. This makes no sense. whereas everybody else there drives, and I was like, driving right now is just too expensive. I don't even have a driving license yet, and that's before doing the driving license. That's like road tax and what have you. There's so many things that go into consideration for a job. I'm like, but if I can't get there, there's no point applying.
Yeah, that's a huge thing. And travel in general is a fucking nightmare. Pardon my French.
Yeah.
It's been yeah, when it comes to stuff like that, it's the stressful parts of life that I just don't keep in my head. I tend to begrudgingly do a lot of things because I have to, but I've very much learned how to avoid the stuff that really makes me miserable. For example,
I totally agree.
Travel.
What was it? I think one time I went to London. That's right, just because I live in the UK and I always go to London. I was like, it feels like sometimes, unless you're going to stay at the place you're traveling to for at least that night, it's so much more stressful than if you wasn't going to. Because you got to figure out, how am I getting there? How am I getting back? Have I paid for my ticket? Have I not paid for my ticket both ways? And all that. Do I have to be aware of the people that live there?
Yeah, it's a crazy world we live in right now. So,
yeah.
Luckily, I don't have very far I need to go. Though I do go to Tampa in April, which is going to be a nightmare. So, Tampa, Florida. Don't go to Florida, guys. Run away as fast as you can.
Yeah. It's like I've seen. What was it? LA. They've been having a lot of issues with like the fires and stuff. The natural fires, I believe.
Yeah. Some aren't. Some are. It's natural fires though that happen a lot there, and yeah, it's a nightmare. I mean, there's no other way to describe it. Fighting the natural disasters like that, you've got no control. You're fighting God at that point, and you're just like, nope, can't do anything about it. I'm lucky to live in the Northeast New Jersey, where I don't experience things like hurricanes or wildfire. Well, Jersey had wildfires recently, but that's rare, very rare. It was only this year. Our worst thing is we get snow, and even then, our snow isn't that bad. So I feel bad for other places like down south Florida area where the hurricanes are awful. Out in California, you got earthquakes, you got fires. It's a nightmare. I do not know how people survive out there comfortably without stressing about what could come tomorrow.
It's like most that we have to worry about in the UK is usually if it's going to rain really badly. Because whereabouts where I've moved to, there's like an area where you usually walk that's under a bridge, and it's like a one-way system to drive through it. So if that gets flooded, you got to go like a long way around.
Yeah, see, it's a big issue in your world, but in the grand scheme of things, it's just like, okay, maybe I've got it a little bit good. Maybe I've got some good things going here.
Yeah, it's like, I think that's it in general. Like sometimes it's like, oh, to me it's a big issue, but to somebody else it's like, oh, there's nothing.
Yeah. I have to walk uphill both ways to school every day. It's like the old mentality of like, oh, I always somebody else had it worse out there. My problem's still my problem. If I can feel bad about my problem. It might not be their problem, but
it's just weird how nice it is sometimes to just. You've probably seen me posting sometimes in SW Discord where it's just nice sometimes, even if nobody replies or nobody reacts to it, just to post something that's been on your mind and then just leave it.
Yep. Get it out of your head. Just like express it. Let's put it out there for somebody to see. If anybody sees it, great. If anybody reacts to it, great. But in all actuality, you're just venting out what you're going through and what you're dealing with.
Yeah.
I do that with my friends a lot.
It's like sometimes I'm like, oh, don't like message my best mate. I'm like, oh, don't go worrying about it. However, this is what's on my mind. Blah blah blah. And then sometimes I'm like, I know he won't reply straight away, but I'm like in my head, I'm like, he probably doesn't give a shit straight away, because I wouldn't straight away if somebody was giving me their problems. But I'm like, I put myself in their shoes, and I'm like, to be fair, that does sound a bit frustrating.
Yeah, you know what? It's when you have your own problems going on, sometimes empathy is hard when somebody else is dealing with something, especially if you think that issue that they're dealing with is minor compared to what you're going through. But my practice has always been, you don't know what someone else is going through. They can tell you what their issue is. They can tell you what they're dealing with, but you don't know where their mental state is at. You don't know exactly how they feel. You can empathize, or you can sympathize. Sometimes you can empathize if you really understand the situation, but naturally people just don't grasp what somebody else is fully going through.
Definitely. So, like, what's your opinion when it comes to games that put you in that sort of like mentality of, so sometimes you have like, I don't know, like, for example, how to put it, but like games like Skyrim and Fallout, where you put yourself into the shoes of the main character. A lot of time they may not even have a voice, and you see these characters like venting about their frustrations, and you're like, I don't care. I just want to do the main story. Like you hear but then it's like.
See, I'm the exact opposite.
Yeah.
I feel when I play games, I have a very hard time doing any evil or bad playthrough.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah.
Because I'll be playing a game and I'll naturally feel like, oh, I should help this person because they're in trouble. Because it's what in all reality, there's no skin off my back. It's a game that like ain't happening here. I'm not dealing it with myself, but in this game world, this person is dealing with this, and they may be just a computer with ones and zeros that make them work. The thing is, you feel sort of human connection, however generic it may be. Yeah, I found that I have a very hard time playing the bad guy in any of these games, especially Fallout. Fallout, I just play the good guy, the hero. I can't be evil.
Yeah, like, especially when it says, "Oh, they will remember this," or "Oh, you gained this bad karma, this good karma." I'm like,
yep.
Oh, does that affect my end game? Does this affect my next mission? Can I not do this next? And sometimes I'm like, even though when I go into games blind, I'm like, I wish I didn't do that. What happens if I didn't do that? That sort of situation.
Yeah. You make. I especially like the games where the choices are. The answer for the choice is not immediately available to you. You don't know what the outcome will be. You could think that you're doing something that's really good, but in all actuality, you just killed half a population of people because of your choice. Those are the types of games I love, because then if I do something bad, it's not my fault. Well, okay, it's my fault. It's not like I made the choice to do something evil. I made the mistake of doing something evil. Those are the games that I love the most, because it's actually part of the concept for my next Whispers of the Dead game, but the act of doing something that you think is good only to find out that it's evil later is such a great story trope that the fact that it is used so sparingly only makes it better.
Yeah. There's always mystery in the minimal, and it's like, oh, but this wasn't resolved. But then it's like, oh, but if you think carefully, what, like maybe it was, or maybe you just have to wait for that next moment, that next game, something that grabs that person's attention to want to stick around for the more or the less title or what have you. It's like when you get people that play games just for the achievements or just for the trophies. I do like it sometimes when you've got that pop-up that isn't just completed this. Sometimes it's a bit of like lore or a bit of a jokey thing in that. Because it's like not everybody thinks to do that, and it's quite creative as well. Like some of the little things like the Easter eggs and those, it's like
not showing anything.
Yeah.
But you bring up a very, very relevant thing that I'm working on currently regarding Steam achievements. But yes, I agree. Things that like subvert the expectation of what it should be. Oh, it's always a good thing.
So maybe it's not something you'll be doing anytime soon, but would you see yourself doing any multiplayer games, or is this going to be single player games?
So, me and my friend who started this studio, we have gone over what our future projects are and what we want to build. He has a specific game that he wants to build that I've already written the full story for, but the grand scale of the project is so big that it's going to take time to build. So in the meantime, we're building these smaller... Whispers of the Dead is probably a 1 to 2 hour game, costs $5, but it's something that we can use building up a platform in the future. Multiplayer is a huge concept for a lot of our future games, but that's also something that is much grander in scale and needs more
time and dealing.
Time and talent. I'm in no way a good dev yet. I am simply a mediocre dev who learned how to do small things enough to make a game, but like he, on the other hand, has skills that far outweigh what I could ever do. I'm a story guy, and that's what I know I'm good at, and that's what I want to be able to help with. My ultimate goal is I never want to game dev again. Once I get to a certain point of the game, I just want to make the story for the game. A lot of the assets that are used in my game are Unreal Store bought assets because I can't use Blender. I'm not good at modeling stuff. But the one thing I am good at is telling a story, which is what my ultimate goal is for this game. In the future, gameplay stuff, that like multiplayer and stuff like that, I want to implement, but that's going to come at a point that I'm not actually doing the developing anymore. I'm going to be focusing more on the story and like the more minute aspects of the game, the things that are like your Easter eggs, how you set up sequel, level design, how do you want the level to be built, stuff like that. So multiplayer is not in the immediate future, but it's not something. It is something that eventually we want to do, especially since the multiplayer market is so huge that any multiplayer game that you put out nowadays gets over 1,000 players at minimum.
I think it's certainly going to be intriguing how people's react to it, especially if it ever comes to, if any of the games ever come to console. Because you just know that I'll be playing them if they ever come to console, especially.
I would love to bring it to console. That's more of a, if it gets enough success on Steam, then I can move it over to console. Console requires a lot more. I looked into it because I know a lot of my cousins, a lot of my family play console. They don't do PC. I'm like the only PC guy in my family. But to get it onto a console, getting the contracts through Nintendo, Sony, or Microsoft is a pain in the ass compared to Steam. So if I can get Steam up and running, and if it's successful, you'll see it on consoles. But it's a matter of how well this one does.
Yeah. Hell, I'd even attempt to see if I can get it working on my wife's laptop just to play it.
You know what? It's me and my friend's test bed. We're gonna put it out there. You need a decent computer to play it. You don't need you don't need a 4090 or 5090 i9 computer. I think the lowest we tested on was an i5 1070, if I'm not mistaken. Which, I mean, that's fairly low end. Most people who are at PC gamers at this point should be able to play it. Is it going to be the desired experience? Probably not. But you can still experience the story, read the poetry that's in the game. You can still do the hunt, the gunplay, and everything like that. It's actually harder to do the gunplay in lower graphics than it is in higher graphics, because the lower graphics don't get the same lighting effects. This is all the technical jargon that comes into it, but like in the higher graphics, you have things like fog and light disbursement. So all the light in the game isn't coming from actual light, but the fog emitting a certain small bit of light itself. As you look in the trailer, when you see the flashlight is off, or if there's no light going on, you can see in the distance, but there's no actual lights that are on.
Yeah, I get you.
It's a lot of technical stuff, and it's the back end of stuff. That's the stuff that like killed my brain when I started learning it. So
yeah, because I sometimes like a balance of not too high graphics, but not too like I want it like in between. I don't want it like too like in your face. Like, I'm not one of these where it's like, oh, it has to be like this. As long as it's good to the eye. It's like, what was it? I was showing my wife 2K25, like some renders and stuff that are off that. And there was like a comparison, I think, of Roman Reigns from the previous game to the new game. And I think it's got that good that she didn't even realize it was the next wrestling game. She thought it was actually him. And I was like, it is weird how progressive some games are getting, so where you can't tell the difference.
Yeah. I think there's a stylistic choice when you create a game. One of the other inspirations, if you've ever heard of Chilla's Art, they do these various hard games. Those are what my current inspirations are. I almost changed my graphics just to match up with like how they do it, but I decided against it simply because I don't want to be compared to them.
I think what from what I've seen, because I'm also having a little rethink of and like rewatch the trailer while we're watching it, while we're talking, just to get more of a feel for it. But I feel like it's definitely got that sort of feel where you can definitely tell the inspirations that are there.
Yeah.
because like one of the YouTubers that I watch, he plays a lot of horror games. I feel like if I ever saw him play this game, I'd be like, what?
Yeah, no, that's a feeling I'm hoping to feel at some point. I put out a new so right now the game is in beta. I have a bunch of beta testers who are playing it. And I put out the newest update. At this point, I feel confident enough that I'm going to be releasing keys to different streamers and stuff like that. So look out. You might see the game on insert various streamer here.
Hey, maybe I'll even send that YouTuber your way, because I know sometimes he plays games like that.
Cool.
So if you've still got some keys to give out, he might end up playing it. Who knows?
Cool, thank you. Yeah, I'm taking suggestions. I do have a limited amount of keys that I can give out, so I got to figure out exactly who I want to. I have a list currently ongoing, but if you ever have suggestions, I send them to me.
Yeah, you definitely want to, like, I'm assuming you already know yourself, so it's silly for me saying it in a way, but you definitely want to cater to people that you want to potentially play it, but then you also want people that unconventionally also wouldn't play it. So you want that maybe mix. I don't know. Yeah, like I've never made a game this in depth myself, but
I think there's a general. So the people who I'm currently going for are people who typically will play a lot of horror games. Mostly because then they're good at taking the game and comparing it to others. They're also, since they play those games so often, they can make suggestions based off their broad experience and knowledge. I did not cater the game too much to the casual gamer. It is a little bit hard. I do find that even I, who knows everything that's going to happen, will still die when playing the game. So that should give you an indication of how hard it is. But there are people out there who I know play like a variety of games who I will send it also to. There's a lot of big names, obviously, but someone like IGP, Insum, who plays a lot of Phasmophobia, send it to him. But that list is still ongoing. So if you have any suggestions, please send it my way.
Oh, well, I will do. So, when it comes to storyboarding, like, how long did it take for you to be sat on what you wanted to go for?
For me,
yeah,
it's easy. For me, it's very easy. I've been doing the wrestling stuff for so long at this point that doing storyboards for long-term storytelling stuff takes me a day at most, depending on how big the project is. For something like this game, which isn't that long, it took me a day to figure out this is what I wanted to do, this is the secret endings that I want, this is the path choices that you can make. It was a very easy process for me for something this small. But for, say, the game that me and my friend are building, the bigger concept, that story took me probably a good year to perfect and get down because it's so expansive. It's huge. It's that game is a whole different beast. That's a AAA $60 like total be all end all type of game. But for something like this Whispers of the Dead took me probably an hour to figure out what I want to do with it. The next Whispers of the Dead that I already figured out took me 3 hours in total to get the whole storyboard out. but that's what I'm good at. Now, when it comes to making the game and building it, that's going to take me probably 3-4 months. So I expect that the next iteration of Whispers of the Dead, depending on how successful this one is, for all I know, this game could fucking skyrocket and I could have my whole studio going immediately. But my expectations currently are the game to be coming out probably July, August of this year.
Yeah. So just to clarify, that's one of the next games.
It is. So there's Whispers of the Dead, and then there's the next Whispers of the Dead is going to be a chronological series. Like, again, chill as art type of thing. They're all stories that are similar and connected, but different in their own way. The Whispers of the Dead game, deals with a lot of the biblical lore, 7 deadly sins, stuff like that. And this game only reveals 4 of the 7 deadly sins. So the next game will deal with the other 3 that were not included in this one.
Yeah, I'm quite intrigued to how it goes. I'll definitely be making maybe some like shorts or some kind of like video. Maybe I'll do some stuff because of how like the connection is between like how long I've known you for. I'm wanting to get that first-hand impression from other people as well. So I can't wait to see other people play your game. I'm sure you're obviously even more so.
Yeah, no, trust me. I'd love to see people play. I can't wait till. I'm excited for the game to come out. I'm excited to see people play it. I'm excited to see the reaction to it, whether it's good or bad. You don't like to dwell on it, but look, the game could come out and people absolutely hate it. It's horrible. People just like, wow, this game is shit. That's good. That's good knowledge because I'm going to see everything that they dislike about it. There are very few indie devs who come out with a classic hit with their first game. It is few and far between who can do that. So I expect this game to be middle of the road, maybe. But I can take everything that comes through, all the reviews, all the opinions, everything that people put out, and take that and make a better game, but also continuously update this game to make it meet the standards of others. One of my favorite studios, Hello Games, No Man's Sky, came out absolutely atrocious. The entire studio was like lambasted for months and months and months. Death threats, stuff like that. I mean, it's a total different situation. $60 game. $60 compared to $5 game are very different realms. But Hello Games continued to develop the game. Even as the game was hated, even though they're not making as much money as they did at the initial launch, they kept on building it up and kept on updating and updating. That's what I want to do with this game too, while producing the other ones. When I create another one and I say, ooh, this is really cool, I want to add this to the old one. I plan on continuously developing the old game so it can meet the level of the newer games too.
Yeah, so like you don't have to be like, 3 years later we'll make the remastered, rewritten version of the first game, or anything like that.
The ultimate goal is once I get most of the stories out. No spoilers. I can't dive into.
I was gonna say, don't go too far in.
Yeah. I thought about it. I was like, ooh, that's spoiler territory. I don't want to say that. But I do feel as if I have a great foundation for what could be future iterations of the game. I also feel like the game that I created, and from a lot of the testers who have played it, have said this is fun, especially for a first-time indie game. Whether that sentiment remains when the game comes out, who knows? I'm not expecting to be a overnight game sensation. I'm not expecting to be compared to Chillazar, Puppy Playtime, Resident Evil. I don't plan on being compared to those from the start. But I do want my game to be in those conversations in the
like
future.
in its own space, like those.
Exactly. Yes.
I feel like it's always good to not downplay at the same time, because like you're in it to have fun as well as to make the games themselves.
Yep.
Like you don't want to sort of like be stuck in a rut of, oh, I guess it could be good, I guess it could be bad, but at the same time you just want to enjoy the experience what it is.
Correct. I like I said, I don't dwell on whether it's going to be bad. I don't have any unreal expectations of what the game could be or what it will be. I think it's very smart to have that in your head, because you don't want to be like, oh, this game is going to do amazing, it's going to be great, and then have it come out and just do poorly as hell on the Steam store, like all negative reviews, because that will destroy you. It will destroy your motivation to keep on going. It's better to have realistic expectations, go into it knowing, hey, this is my first game, it could do poorly, it could do great. It's better to say, hey, if it does do poorly, I'm going to take what people say and I'm going to use it to implement and make a better game. Plus, make this game better. I think having the unrealistic expectation that this game is going to do amazing from the start is setting yourself up for failure. And in all honesty, I want people to be very honest with the game. I don't expect it to be a 9 out of 10. I don't expect it to be an 8 out of 10. If it's a 7 out of 10, great. What points do I need to change? If it's a 3 out of 10, okay, what things need to change for it to feel more like a 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10, and slowly just build it up over time. But hell, hey, we never know. It could come out. It could be an instant classic. We'll see. What could go wrong?
So I think it's a fantastic attitude to have, because that, like I've reached already, it's sort of like, it's your first game. You don't want to like have any sort of expectation. You just want to let it be for what it is.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Going in with any expectations, especially when it's your first time doing something, is setting yourself up for failure. You want to make sure that you have an open mind going into anything, because otherwise you're you won't be able to handle the negative if it comes. I mean, I created the
I was just gonna say, so would it be like a release everywhere, or is it just like at a certain time? Is there like any particular time it's going to be released at? So now you mentioned the date.
February 28th, 2025. So it's the end of the month. It's 1:13 Eastern Standard Time PM.
Yeah.
So I guess for you that'd be around 6 o'clock ish.
Yeah, I think it's about right.
Yeah, so it's during the time where most people will be awake. Anyone who's on the West Coast is going to be. It's only in English. One of the horrible things is I ad-lib a lot of my lines. I never recorded them, so making subtitles at this point is nightmare fuel. Um, so it's all English. I think that's a big detractor onto the game for me, especially when the Russian Federation was the second most viewed in the store for my game already. I don't know. But it's available everywhere at that time though. So it's not like it's going to be a staggered release to somewhere else. It's just one flat release time. Yeah.
So, how would you best describe the game without spoiling anything, in as little information as possible with a little teaser?
Hold on one second. Hold on. I got the perfect ad lib right here. Let's go to the YouTube page. Okay, Studios. Let's go to the Whispers of the Dead trailer. Step into the chilling world of Whispers of the Dead, a psychological horror game that blurs the lines between love, fear, and reality. The story begins with Eve Levine, a college student caught in a nightmare after being abducted on a rainy evening in shadowy St. Peter's Park. Her fiancé, Adam Hale, a poet haunted by his own creations, must confront the darkness that emerges from his mysterious writings.
There we go.
That is the reveal. Obviously, the game's store is going to be linked underneath, and there's a very expansive explanation of the game in general about this game. So you can read up on it. You can see everything there. A lot of it's just a psychological thriller mixed with an FPS. Unique enemies who each have their own dynamics. Multiple endings. Choices definitely matter. And yeah, that's really the best way I can explain it.
Sounds good to me. I think we're nearing the end.
Yes.
I even though I've not been part of this game or anything, I am weirdly thinking that something as ominous like that could be in the voice lines in one of your games at some point, because it just sounds like the sort of thing you'd come up with just to leave in there to see if people pick up on it, like that sort of vibe of, but do you remember this? That sort of feel to it.
Every sentence matters in the game. I'll just say that every little detail is important. As I sent you, I don't know, are you able to show trailers via this platform you have?
I've not experienced it yet. So what I'll try and do at some point is maybe we'll do a follow-up video when the game's out and we could talk about it or something. Because I'd rather give it that sort of what's the word? Justice after experience with it. So then we could do a little
follow-up.
A little follow-up post launch. And I'll try and have a little look. I'm sure there'll be some way we can try and figure it out. But yeah, that's a good idea actually.
Yeah. Well, any more questions before I head out of here?
It's sort of connected to something I said earlier, and obviously it doesn't have to happen. But if you ever have any auditions of voice actors, even if it's just a little training for myself, I'd be happy to try and apply.
I trust me. I have a list of people who I am going to. Your name is on that list. A lot of the people from my wrestling days are on the list of people who I will call if I need voice acting and stuff like that. Right now, it's really depend. I tried to make it. How do I put this? I don't know how well this is going to do. If this does very well, and I had people do voice lines for this game, I would feel form of obligation to compensate them in a fair way. Obviously, I don't have that money to distribute now. So if this game does well and the next game gets produced, that's when I'm going to be like, okay, I have money now. I can go and be like, hey, do you want to be do voice lines on here? You're going to be compensated, because I don't want to. I am a huge advocate for paying people for their work, and I would never want to take advantage of people's kindness or general charity to support this game, because God forbid it explodes. I do not want to deal with the logistics after the fact of being like, so you did a voice, I owe you this much, this much. I more so want to be able to, on the front end, be like, hey, I'll pay you this much to do these voice lines and everything like that. It just makes more sense, and in the interest of legality, I've been very cautious when it comes to at least this first game release.
Yeah.
In the future, it might be completely different, but that time will tell.
By that, that was just me expressing my interest. I didn't want you to think that it was me expecting to be involved.
No. I know. It's more so. I say this to mostly everyone. I've had people offer to do some voices in the game, and the more I thought about, the more I was like, I want to make sure that I can compensate people to do it, because not just for the fact of being fair to whoever helps on the project. It's also a matter of legality in the future, because if the studio became huge, God forbid, and then even just one person was like, hey, I did free voice lines in this first game that set you up for this whole big platform, I'm gonna come after you for royalties and stuff like that. I don't want to. I don't want to set up.
Yeah, I understand that.
It's not a matter of like a trust thing, because while I trust a lot of people, it's more of a
just in case sort of thing.
Yeah, I'd rather take precautions on the front end than deal with the aftermath on the back end.
I sort of see it as building the foundations before letting others join in such a way where you can't foresee what may or may not happen, in a way.
Exactly. That's why it's me and my friend right now who are doing the studio and everything like that. It's why all of our testers who test the game are like friends that we've known since childhood, like kids that I was going to grade school with. and it's only testing. They're playing the game for free ahead of time. It's a very different thing than actually including any of their proprietary information or stuff in the game itself.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But yeah, I think that's a good thing to end on, really. You always want to set the foundation for the future, and I think this is certainly a good project to do so.
Yes. But thank you for doing the interview.
No, I always like to say, I'm sure it feels a bit different to the previous one. I feel like it's more laid back. It's more focused, but like streamlined at the same time.
Before we head off, I do got to say something. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, as your IWF television champion, I just want you to know that when we come back, I'm going to destroy each and every one of you. And I'm coming for the King of the Mountain Championship. Yes, I'm talking to you, Brody. I'm looking at you. I'm taking that belt. And I'm going to be the King of the Mountain. Thank you very much.
Oh, there we go. And on the off chance that people that are tuned to this podcast before watching any other ones. That's part of IWF, which is our EFED as well. But yeah, this has been lovely having you on again. I'm sure we'll be on again, especially
Much love.
if we get round to that post-launch episode, which you gracefully pretty much gave the idea to.
Yes. Thank you. It was fun talking. Thank you for giving me a platform to talk about the game and everything like that. And I look forward to the future. See how everything goes.
Good. I agree. Again, lovely having you on again. And it's been me, Ryan Iconic Shadows, and
LazyIRL, co-founder of Goge Studios, and the man who plays Drake, your IWF television champion. Thank you very much.
Peace out, everybody. It's just in the process of ending. Good stuff.